I think we're ready to call the meeting to order at 7:05.
Mr. Edwards,
Here.
Mrs. Grant,
Here.
Mr. Palumbo,
Here.
Mrs. Lee, Mrs.
Here. Sorry, I'm trying to think. Here we go. All right, we have been provided with a revised agenda with additions that Ryan sent out earlier today. Is there a motion to?
We've got a couple verbiage additions as well here. Kelsey's got one.
Yep, under item D, under my report. Where it says, fiscal year 2025 at 25% of the prior fiscal year. That word prior should be in front of 25% of the prior fiscal year expenses.
Okay.
Then under my section, this would be item J. At the very end, where it says in-person session, I'm gonna make that a comma and then put plus expenses for travel, lodging, transportation, which are to be determined.
How is travel and transportation different?
I'm assuming that he means in terms of a flight and then his transportation like in the airport here.
Okay.
I guess it could all be summed into traffic.
I'm sorry, which one was that?
J.
J. Right, with those additions and corrections, is there a motion to approve the agenda? Moved by Dora, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Kent, have the roll please.
Mrs. Grant,
Yes.
Mr. Edwards.
Yes.
Mr. Palumbo,
Yes.
Mrs. Lee, Mrs.
Yes. Then we'll have the approval of the minutes that Kelsey submitted to us for May 21. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as submitted?
Move.
Moved by Israel, is there a second? Second. Seconded by Jackie. Go ahead and roll please.
Mr. Palumbo.
Yes.
Mrs. Lee.
Yes.
Mr. Edwards.
Yes.
Mrs. Grant.
Yes.
Mrs.
Yes. Do we have any public participation? Anyone care to? No, okay, we'll move on to the sponsors report.
I spoke to Mr. Kurt this morning. He said he was not going to be able to be in attendance this evening. There are no significant updates right now in terms of sponsorship. It's kind of a slower time of the year right now. He said just one update was that they're still waiting on the appeal process with the pipeline. Nothing new to report at this time.
Okay, very good. Under board member and liaison reports, I just, I had nothing to report under the president's report, but for legislation, I just wanted to make notations for everybody here. We received the legislative update from Goodson, from Amy's law firm. And one of the things that update referred to was the limited cell phone use. And we're covering that in policy 222. So we have that, the cell phone use is being covered there. Another policy that was lost in the update was compliance, the wellness policy compliant. And we have really everything covered in policy 301. So that's good. The other item that came through on that document was the online day plan. And we're going to be covering that tonight in policy 240. Diane Keegan had forwarded legislative updates also. There have been some changes in the Title IX program, and I'm sure our policy will be updated as we need to. So that's all I have with legislative. Are there any other board member reports for liaisons? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the treasurer's report.
First, under informational items, I have some maintenance of effort updates for you. So if you'll recall, for our ESEA maintenance effort, we have to spend at least 90% out of our general fund that we spent the prior year. So fiscal year 23, that number was 2,693,000. We are already above that, so we are all set to meet that. And we have a slightly lower ABM, so even like our per people will definitely meet that as well. As for IDA, as of 5/31, we were well above what we were at this time last year. I've reached out to our IDA grant representation just to confirm that as long as we meet our maintenance effort, like if we were to meet it today, for example, as we ran payroll for 6/20, I can then take some of our additional expenses for the rest of June, such as like our medical insurance that we pay at the end of the month, and put those into IDA. So IDA is a little bit different than the other grants with the supplement, not supplant rulings. As long as you meet your maintenance effort, you can take expenses out of your general fund and put them into IDA. So we might see a nice little reduction here in June, hopefully. I haven't confirmed it yet, but I would anticipate at least a little bit being put into the grant, which is nice. I also have a summary of our FY25 allocations for both our consolidated grants and our school improvement and support grants. I wanted to just kind of lay out a summary of the budgets. I do have the actual budget grids for us to approve, but I feel like a narrative summary is a little bit more useful to look at. So for Title 1A, our allocation was $253,697.95. The same as this year, if we would approve summer hours, I would look to pay the summer teacher hours out of Title 1A. We are going to move Shannon Wilson out of ESSER into Title 1A as we spend up ESSER and those funds run out. We will move Larry Circle into Title 1A as an attendance specialist. Shannon's Title 1 coordinator stipend will come out of Title 1. Potentially spend some professional development out of Title 1A. We just offered that conference to teachers. That was yesterday and today, which went really well. So we might look to do some maybe literacy, professional development, or I am going to look into the speaker that Ryan is recommending. We can pay that out of Title 2A. I might look to see if Title 1A would also be an option just because we have a little bit more. There will be some remaining costs out of Title 1 because I was able to move a little bit more expenses into that, but they won't cover it fully necessarily. So any remaining cost, or sorry, Title 1 non-competitive. So any remaining costs from Title 1 non-competitive, I would then put into Title 1A. And we are also recommending the purchase of Ripple. We will get into that a little bit later in Ryan's report. But there are some annual costs after the initial purchase, so I did want to budget for those as well. IDA Part B, we pay for salaries and benefits for 1 intervention specialist and our 2 SPED paraprofessionals. With next year's allocation, those 3 items will eat that completely up. As far as carryover goes, we might be able to put some additional expenses into it, but we'll have to see what exactly our carryover is going to be. Title 1 non-competitive, we will look to continue to pay our attendance and student engagement specialist salary benefits. That's Fossey and Redding, as well as our science and English tutors. We pay Margareta for a portion of Brian Wrinkle's salary benefits as our science tutor, and then Sandy Carroll is our English tutor. For the EOEC grant, we recently approved the cost for the shirt print shop. We have not gotten a final budget in place for starting that up, but we did get a higher allocation for next year, so I have no doubt that we'll be able to continue to maintain that should it not reach self-sufficiency immediately. I don't anticipate it does immediately, so we should be able to maintain that. We'll also continue to pay for youth science out of that. Title 2A, I pay for professional development and tuition reimbursement. Not all professional development goes into this, so as teachers request things throughout the year, I look to see what supports the Title 2A initiative, and if I can put it in the 590, I do. Tuition reimbursement varies year to year. We don't always have a ton of people doing it. Some years we do. Our allocation was slightly lower in Title 2A. However, we spent about $25,000 this year, but we will have about $16,000 in carryover. So that'll put us above what we spent this year, and so we should be all right. Title 4A, again, I anticipate some carryover. We pay for our school nurse out of this, as well as our clubs program. We should have carryover from this year to help maintain that. Are there any questions over the maintenance effort updates or the grants budgets?
Kelsey, remind me what EOEC is.
Expanding opportunities for every child.
Any other questions? Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yes.
Very helpful.
Yes. We can go ahead and skip past our minutes and we'll move on to our financial reports. First, we have our cash reconciliation. You can see we ended the month with $9,854,582. Next, we have our disbursement summary. I did note just a couple of things to point out. 5 up from the bottom, we've got a $1,500 payment to Marnie Samansky. That was for being our RESA program coordinator. So Ashley is our building coordinator, but Marnie is our program coordinator. I think we are required to have.
Ashley's like the mentor for the
Yes.
teachers here.
Yeah.
That's the word I was looking for, mentor. On the next page, again, about 5 up from the bottom, you'll see a payment to VASA. This is for the Women in Leadership cohort. So Ashley, Tara, and I had attended the Women in Leadership conference. We applied to the cohort, Ashley and I did, and we were very thankfully accepted. So we're very excited to take part in that. There's about 6 different meetings throughout the year next year, and it culminates at the conference again. Hoping Tara joins us again, but we're very excited for that. On the next page, you'll see about halfway down, there's a pretty high payment to Amy Goodson, about $11,522. This is higher because we finally made that payment for the policies that we approved. That was about an $8,000 cost, so that's why you see that inflated slightly. A little bit further down, we've got $3,290 payment to NB education events. We had approved this just last meeting. That was for that Title 1A professional development that we sent some teachers to. I'm happy. I heard back from Tara today that it did go very well. She thought it was a really good event. Had a good time.
And staff seemed to really like it. It was well run, so the day went really fast. Lots of information covering lots of different topics covered, so definitely it was beneficial and something I would definitely look to present to the staff for next, like they're hoping to come back up next summer too.
Okay.
Awesome. That was all I had noted for our disbursement summary. Does anybody have any questions over the disbursements? On the next page, we'll have our, sorry, did I have any questions? Am I moving too quick? Okay,
No, the reoccurrence of the $5.
I know, but I am happy to report that some of the other ones have gotten knocked out, so we are down to just payments in May that were outstanding, so I was happy about that, but yes, that payment is the bane of my existence.
Is that $5 from that number?
Yes, I know, David, the charger,
That was like a year ago.
I know.
Should I pay it?
Well, it's a refund, it's a check that they haven't
Oh,
cashed.
they haven't cashed.
They paid with a check, $25, and I think it was given to the site, so it made its way here, and then we had to refund it, we couldn't get a hold of the
Right,
ferry to just
remember.
return it. So we refunded it, not wanting to keep the extra money, it hasn't been cashed, it's been very good. I maintain hope that it gets cashed. Alright, next we've got our spreadsheet for the month. You will see at the bottom, we ended the month of May with a positive of $246,460. In the bottom left section, we are a little bit above our anticipated expenses. At the end of May, we would expect to be at about 91.67%. We have talked about the fact that we moved the resource officer into the general fund to use our DPIA funds. We added the addition of a career coach to use student wellness funds. We had some staff move from the old 467 student wellness funds. We finally used those up, so then those expenses then went into the general fund because student wellness funds are now being paid into the general fund and the state foundation payment. So we did have some expenses that weren't necessarily planned, such as the vans as well, that inflated our expenses slightly. We're not far off from where we intended to be, and our revenue is significantly higher. So I'm hoping possibly with the IDEA that I can even bring these down a little bit more. We could possibly be, I'm hoping to be right at 100%. We'll see how June ends. But again, even if we are slightly above where we plan to be, we did have some unplanned expenses and we are doing fine revenue wise. I've got our total FTE at the very bottom left at 398.12. That was on our June foundation payment, or sorry, that was the May foundation payment. The April foundation payment is below it. Are there any questions on our spreadsheet? I've included our foundation payments For the month of June. A couple things to point out, so in the annual amount column, you can see our student wellness funds for the year ended at $165,459. We have not yet broken into this year's funds, but we are doing a good job staying on pace of spending these funds. I'm hopeful that by next year of June, we will have spent them all up and we will not owe any back. I'm excited to report that our disadvantaged people impact aid funds ended June at $235,135.61. If I can get our school resource officer bill in time to pay it by the end of the month, I have Betty coming in to do a special check run. I think we will have spent all of those. So that's great. We will have ended the year with none of those funds remaining. You can see our total state support prior to the adjustments was at $6,240,000. After the adjustments, we are still over 6 million. After our paybacks, as well as our retirement, we were still clearing over 5 million at $5,256,677.36. I've also included, as always, our summary payments. I've got June and May both included. You can see that June did fall slightly below May, but I think that's to be expected as we have graduates toward the end of the year and our FTE typically lowers slightly. So May was at 6,089,000, June was at 6,062,000. Still good for the year.
Right.
Any questions so far? Okay. Right. Next, we've got item D. So this is something that we approve every year. Item D says resolve that the Board of Directors of Townsend Community School authorizes the establishment of temporary appropriations for fiscal year 2025 at 25% of the prior fiscal year expenditures for July 1st, 2024 through September 30th, 2024. So essentially, this is because we don't have our formal budget approved, we don't have our appropriations or our spending plan summary approved. That typically takes place in September, October. So this just allows me to spend money in the meantime at about 25% of what we spent last year. It just gives me the freedom to keep paying the bills, keep paying people what they need to be paid in the meantime until we get those formal budgets approved. Item E, resolve that the Board of Directors of Townsend Community School authorizes the transfer of funds from the school's general fund to the 006 cafeteria fund in an amount sufficient to cover expenses for all breakfast and lunch program costs for which the National Student Breakfast and Lunch Program funds are insufficient to cover. So as of today, we are at a negative of about $560. We will pay like Judy's medical insurance this month, so I anticipate it being at probably about 2,000, not anything crazy. I will say, if you look at the cash summary that I send out in the monthly financial reports at the end of each month, you'll notice that we do have 006 9023 and 006 9024 funds that actually total over 25,000. Those are supply chain funds. They go into our cafeteria fund, but they are earmarked for very, very specific uses like fruits, vegetables, things that expire, so we can't just buy them in bulk and spend up the funds. We have to spend them slowly. Cindy and I look at every bill and circle what falls into it, and I code everything I can into it. So we do have an excess of funds in our 006, but they are earmarked for specific uses, just in case anybody had any questions of why that looks the way it does. Cindy is looking at transitioning us to a different lunch program where we might see a little bit more reimbursement for the lunches. So I'm hopeful that maybe this time next year we won't see this in our cafeteria fund. However, right now Cindy and Bob are both being paid out of ESSER. So as they move into the cafeteria fund, which Bob might just go to the general fund, but again, we're going to see more expenses. So we might see this again next year. Item F, resolve that the Board of Directors of Townsend Community School authorizes the order to bind coverage and the participation agreement with Schools of Ohio Risk Sharing Authority and the payment of the associated invoice for $16,907. This is the next item I have in your packet. This is our insurance, our liability, our crime, our cyber insurance. It is up slightly from last year. Schools are seeing this across the board as property values are rising with the current economic climate, with the current inflation. All schools pretty much saw an increase according to our representative, but ours for the most part was pretty minor. We didn't see a huge increase, so I am thankful for that. I believe also we moved up to the second tier of cyber insurance. I think we got bumped up.
Oh, I didn't see that.
I'm
Good.
not positive. I think we did.
Well, we had a two-factor.
We added multi-factor authentication for all employees, and I believe that bumped up our coverage a little bit, so we're a little bit more covered, which is great, because cyber attacks, as David warns us, are happening more and more,
Yeah, Fremont is slowed down for several days, but it's like,
which is scary.
Homeland Security and everything. Yeah.
Thank you.
Really?
Okay, item G. Resolved that the Board of Directors of Townsend Community School hereby approves the school's consolidated grants and school improvement and support grants budgets for fiscal year 2025 as presented by the treasurer. So I do have these as the next item as well. These are the actual grant budgets that, as of right now, I plan on submitting. I am going to a regional training in Columbus on Thursday. That's going to kind of do a workshop with this. So it is subject to slight change, and I did have Amy kind of cover this in this resolution. Further resolved that the board authorizes the superintendent and treasurer to collaboratively make necessary adjustments to said grant budgets throughout the fiscal year, as such adjustments may be needed to accommodate changes in funding levels, reallocation of funds to meet programmatic needs for compliance with grant requirements. Further resolved that the board reaffirms its directive to the superintendent and treasurer to ensure that all grant funds are managed and expended in accordance with applicable federal, state, and local laws, regulations, and grant terms and conditions. And further resolved, the treasurer shall report to the board on a regular basis grant expenditures in relation to budget, including any significant adjustments to said grants budget. On that note, I did want to pause. We had posted on the website that we would give opportunity for public comment on these budgets. I, again, do not plan on submitting them tonight or tomorrow. I'm going to go to this training and will likely be submitting these next week. You want to get them submitted before July 1st because you get the earliest date that you can start using them that way. But I would encourage anybody that watches our meetings to reach out to myself or Ryan if there's any questions, concerns. We do also have some public forms posted on the website. I plan to update the 2024 to 2025. So right now they probably say fiscal year 24, but feel free to please use those forms regardless to leave any feedback or reach out via email, phone call. If you have any questions, concerns, or comments. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. Item H, after Savista was at our meeting last month and they heard me give our credit card rewards report, they were quick to contact me and let me know that we could change our account to be able to be eligible for rewards. I ran it by Amy and just made sure there was no issues there. She assured me that as long as the rewards are used towards the school's benefit, it's fine. So I would like to switch accounts and start earning some rewards and using that to our benefit. So whereas Townsend Community Schools, the school treasurer has determined that the terms of a rewards credit card account with Savista Bank are more beneficial to the school than the school's current non-reward bearing credit card account with Savista Bank. Resolved that the board of directors of the school hereby authorizes its treasurer Kelsey Cromer to open a rewards credit card account with Savista Bank with a $16,200 maximum credit card limit pursuant to the school's credit card policy. Treasurer Kelsey Cromer is hereby authorized and directed to execute any and all documents necessary to open the new credit card account on behalf of the school. Further resolved that the authorized users for the rewards credit card account of Savista Bank shall be Kelsey Cromer, treasurer, Ryan Bones, superintendent, Judy Johnson, food services, Bob Hamilton, maintenance, sanitation, and food services. Further resolved that each authorized user shall ensure his or her use of the credit card is in accordance with the school's credit card policy and credit card holder agreement, and shall ensure that any reward received from the credit card account is used for the benefit of the school, not the authorized user personally. Further resolved that the school's treasurer shall oversee compliance with the school's credit card policy, including ensuring that any rewards, cash points, etc. are used for the benefit of the school, not any individual personally, and the treasurer shall annually present a report to the board detailing all rewards received based on the use of the credit card account. Further resolved that the board of directors of the school directs and authorizes its treasurer Kelsey Cromer to close the existing non-reward bearing credit card account with Savista Bank as it is no longer needed and should be closed to prevent unnecessary and unintentional liability. Treasurer Kelsey Cromer is hereby authorized and directed to execute any and all documents necessary to close that existing credit card account. Further resolved that the treasurer shall collect and destroy any cards associated with the existing non-reward credit card account with Savista Bank.
Ooh. Very
We got it. We got it.
I don't even want a non-reward credit card there and all that.
Yeah, there you go. Is there a motion to approve items A through H of the treasurer's report?
So moved.
Moved by Ken, is there a second? Second by Dora. Are there any questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll have the roll, please.
Mr. Edwards.
Yes.
Mrs. Grant.
Yes.
Mr. Palumbo.
Yes.
Mrs. Lee.
Yes.
Mrs. Smith.
Yes,
Great, Cal.
thank you, thank you.
So you mean you're not supposed to get the reward on the?
No, absolutely not.
That's how you blindside if they check it.
Yeah, we give that report, and every year I had to give the report saying, we get none, and next year I'm gonna be able to say, we got.
We got mines.
Yeah,
No.
all right, we'll move on to the superintendent's report.
Right, first thing I'd like to review is the enrollment data, which can be found in your folder. And it does have the new format that we talked about last month, where we view each of the previous months. For the school districts that our students reside in, we look at the breakdown there. As you can see, our enrollment as of this week is 473 students. Now, keep in mind, we have graduated 89 students this school year, so if you add those two together, that's 562 students when you combine those two, which is actually, if you look at the previous months, it's actually the largest total in terms of current students and graduates for the school year. So that's, I think that's positive.
Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, that's good.
It's very helpful to see there, how things change.
Our largest enrollment area currently is actually now in Norwalk City Schools. We are at 73 students there. Currently in Fremont, we are at 69 students, so that is second largest. And then third is Sandusky with 44. And Bellevue right behind it, 40 students. Any questions on the enrollment breakdown? Okay. Moving on to new business. Item A is a resolution to approve the awarding of high school diplomas to the following students upon successful completion of the graduation requirements as set forth by the state of Ohio. And you can see the students listed there. Item B is a resolution to approve the following policies as presented. We have policy 113, which is the credit card policy pertaining to what Kelsey just reviewed. We have policy 240, the online day plan policy that has to be approved before August 1st. It's the same as what was in place last year, as well as policy 240A, online plan, day plan attachment A. Policy 408 is a mileage reimbursement policy, and we had, when we approved the new policies, we had overlooked that and said that the mileage had to be paid within 30 days.
Right, I think we discussed some other items of it, but that have kind of gone under the radar. I think it was a little unexpected because it wasn't in our previous policy. But I had noted it and reached out to Becky about it because just with the way that we submit mileage, it's not really conducive. We have people submit, like, for example, April 15th through May 15th, and I might get it May 30th, but it goes into a folder and gets processed for the 6/15, and then we're, on a date. So we just extended it to about 6 months. It gives a little bit more flexibility with the way that we're doing mileage, a lot more than what a lot of other schools do. It's not just for PD, it's for regular travel. The 30 days wasn't gonna work.
Yeah, so this just gives us that flexibility if a staff member does not turn it in.
Right, if somebody forgets, I don't wanna not be able to pay them.
Okay, moving on to item C, it's a resolution to approve the shared services agreement with Margaret Local Schools for the position of school resource officer for the 2024-25 school year as presented. So again, we have a contract with the Erie County Sheriff's Department for an SRO, full-time SRO for this coming school year. So Margaret would be paying for 50% of the school resource officer, and we would then share the resource officer with the high school. That SRO will then go back and forth between the buildings and circulate the entire campus as they have reduced or eliminated the position they had this past year for SRO.
And I asked Kelsey for the amount of what that agreement was, because I don't know where that was presented, and she had given it to me, it was 79. So I think,
Just under 40,000.
Right. It was 79, the total contract was $79,743.72. So it'd be just under 40,000.
Moving on, we have item D, it's a resolution to accept the resignation of Zach Coe intervention specialist, and social studies teacher for the 2024-25 school year, effective at the end of the 2023-24 contract. And item E is a resolution to accept the resignation of Kristen Kovac, intervention specialist, and Fremont Dean of Students for the 2024-25 school year, effective at the end of her 2023-24 contract. Zach has accepted an intervention specialist position at EOV, and Kristen has decided to accept a position at Vermillion Schools as an intervention specialist. I want to thank both of those employees for being very good, loyal employees to Townsend for all their years of service, and we wish them the absolute best moving forward.
Absolutely, and I think everyone on the board, we feel the same way. We really appreciate all that they've done for us over the years.
Moving on to item F. Item F is a recommendation to approve a certified contract for Melissa Devinet, who is here this evening as intervention specialist.
Good evening, Melissa.
As intervention specialist, Masters plus 12, step 15 at $75,098 for a 182-day contract for the 2024-25 school year, including non-administrative staff exhibit B. So we welcome you. Any vote?
Say, yeah.
Could be a couple no's.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
Item G is a recommendation to approve Marnie Hallett Samansky as a RESTA coordinator for the 2024-25 school year at the amount of $1,500. Item H is a recommendation to approve Ashley Hermes as RESTA mentor for the 2024-25 school year at an amount of $1,000 per person that's mentored. And I believe we have one, as of right now, one person on staff, which is our new intervention specialist for the Lorraine County location. We have item I, a recommendation to approve Carrie Bernard and Karen Zirkle to attend the NACHV Now Conference, which is an education of homeless children and youth in Orlando, Florida, for November 16th and 19th. And we are looking at using ARP homeless funds and Title I-A funds to fund that conference, which is out of state.
So there's a portion of Title I-A that you're required to set aside for homeless funds. And we are able to use that set aside for this. So I confirmed that prior to us bringing this. And then we have ARP targeted homeless funds that are going to be expired. So that would pay for the sign up, the registration costs, I should say. And then once they attend the conference, we no longer have those funds. We are able to use our Title I set aside.
And then item J is a resolution to contract with Galen Elmore to provide Townsend staff members with in-person professional development during the 2024-25 school year in training related to student belongingness at a cost of $8,500 for 2 in-person sessions, plus expenses for travel, lodging, and transportation, which are to be determined. So recently, this spring, the Hobie, several groups brought this gentleman in the Hobie on Saturday, and I wasn't able to attend, but I shared it with our staff for anybody who was able to go, and Karen Zirkle was able to attend. And Karen came back and said very positive things about the workshop with him in terms of belongingness, in terms of connecting with students, building relationships, mentoring students. And she felt that this would be an excellent PD for our staff. And after talking with administration and looking into it, we felt that this would be a good way to kind of kick off the year, but also come back to it in January. So he would come in September or January, 2 different times during the year, and focus on this theme for the year of belongingness and connecting with students. I know that the cost is a little high. It's not cheap by any means, but he is a nationally known speaker who has a very good reputation, and like I said, positive things were said about his recent presentation at EOB. Looking at what funds we would use for this, we would be looking at either Title II-A funds, or if approved, we could possibly look into Title I-A funds for this professional development. And then moving on, we have item K. Item K is a resolution approving the purchase of the program Ripple Effects for the 2024-25 school year in connection with the school's Title I-A and PBIS goals at a cost of $11,750 as presented. So this again was connected to those goals. We had to find ways to use that money that was expiring.
This is from our grant audit, we had to come up with an action plan, so we had met, as an admin team as well as with Shannon, Wilson. And just talked about some of the best ways to utilize the funds. She looked into ripple effects, which is essentially like a social emotional learning piece. I think like in regards to disciplinary measures, it attempts to teach students social emotional skills. She and Leslie, I believe, both recommended it. And this was what I was referencing where I said there's an upfront cost and then we would plan to continue with the annual cost to continue that at a Title I. But we do have some Title I funds that we are attempting to use before a certain obligation date, and this was part of that planning process of trying to come up with that action.
So is that, I didn't take the time, I'm sorry, to look it up online. Is the upfront cost cover professional development in the ripple effects? Materials, what does that 11,000
I
cover?
believe it's for the license.
I believe it's the licenses, yeah, forget what it's called, but Shannon did attend the webinar and go through kind of a small thing.
Okay. I've heard of it, but I didn't know it.
There's also like part of that.
Part of the, is the setup, yeah,
$50 setup fee.
okay, yeah, I got it.
Let's see, you can have 30 concurrent user license. Costs $11,700 plus the $50 setup fee.
Permanent licenses, so we would have access permanently to those 30 licenses.
Yeah, so there is professional development support, so.
Yeah, and then the maintenance and upgrade plan is 10% of the annual license cost.
I guess the thing that I wanted to make sure was that it wasn't just an online program, that it was people to people. You know, encouraging that. Is it all digital?
Well, I honestly, Shannon's more familiar with than I personally, I'll be honest. But
Well, maybe we can get
I
a
think our
kind of
people would be
report
the
about it.
personal touch to it.
Yeah.
Implementing it, but there's an online portion to it.
Yeah, I think Shannon as kind of leading the discipline and then Leslie as well as guidance counselor, I believe they would kind of be the personal implementation of it. And would essentially use it as a tool.
Okay. And I mean, the coaching sessions looked good and things, so maybe we can get a update on how it's going in
Yeah.
October or November. See what it's like.
And we have two more here. Item L then is a recommendation to approve a member service agreement with NOECA for the 2024-25 school year at a total cost of $20,290.58 as presented. And then finally, item M is a resolution to approve a revised lease agreement with Lorraine County Community College for Townsend to have an alternative learning center at their location for the 2024-25 school year as presented. So as I had shared in an email earlier today, we received feedback from Lorraine Community College that there was a few minor portions of the contract that they wanted to revise. I ran it by our legal team and Amy said everything looks fine. So we're just reapproving this
Tweaking
last
it,
month
yeah.
just to approve the changes that they suggested. And that is my final action.
All right, is there, and there's no reason not to handle these all together, is it?
No.
There's no. Is there a motion to approve items A through M of the superintendent's report?
Yes, okay.
Ken? Is there a second? Second by Dora. Any discussion or questions?
When would the scale in Elmore come to the school? I'm
When?
sorry, I'm just.
Dates,
When is he coming?
Like,
coming on September 16th, he would come, which is a Monday.
to where,
To Townsend.
To Townsend.
With our whole staff, yeah.
So beginning of the year, September.
Early in the year, stay up September 16th, and then again on Monday, January 13th. Hopefully, there's not an ice storm or snow.
I was gonna say, he should plan that better, where you can come to see that point.
I do think professional development wise, January, maybe not weather wise, but I do think it's a good time just because you're coming back from Christmas break and you've got that long stretch until spring break, so it's kind of a good time to like rejuvenate the staff a little bit. At least when I think back to like being a teacher, you know, sometimes it's hard to come back from that holiday break, so I think timing wise that way, it could be very positive.
Maybe he can come in on Sunday morning and stop at the park for a while on Sunday. In September.
I was just curious, I just.
Any other questions? If not, I'll have the roll, please.
Mr. Evers?
Yes.
Mrs. Grant?
Yes.
Mr. Paloma?
Yes.
Mrs. Solis? Yeah. Mrs. Smith?
Yes. And at this time, I don't think we have any, I'm not aware of a need to move into executive session. Because you wanted to hold off on discussion until we had more recommendations.
Yeah, we can hold on to the discussion.
All right, very good. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
So, when Kent and Israel at 7:46, all in favor? Hi, meeting adjourned.